3, 2, 1.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of GrokTALK, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading
3, 2, 1.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of GrokTALK, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GrokTALK.com. We are your feared extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio microphone stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from GrokTALK.com. Alright, we are GrokTALK, brought to you by GrokTALK.com and the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers. Beautiful Concord, New Hampshire. Cold. We have a blizzard/hurricane coming, a winter hurricane, also known as a blizzard. Named. Is it named something? Did we talk about the name? Who is it? Oh, Hosmer. Hosmer. Oh, yeah, we're going to have to do the Hosmer thing. Josh should be here in the next few minutes. He did say he was coming, so you can sit until he gets here if you want. You know, and we can talk about Hurricane Hosmer. So,
Is it going to be a snow job?
Is it going to be a snow job? Oh, I could turn that headset off because it's not on your head yet, and it'd make all kinds of noise when you're moving it around. Anyway, it is cold. It is wintry. It will continue for at least another 6 weeks. You know,
It's also Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day. It's Valentine's Day. Well, you know, we were talking after the show. We go get hot dogs sometimes, and that's not happening because I, for example, have to rush home so I can go to lunch with my wife because we can't go to dinner because we don't know what the weather's going to be like.
Yeah, we came down yesterday from the mountain, and we had our Valentine's lunch yesterday.
So did we.
Yeah.
Huh. Where'd you go?
Olive Garden.
Mike brought Mama here.
Yeah, well, I got home just after midnight, and Mama did me the favor of picking me up from the airport.
That's tough. And then you're here in the morning.
Right.
We don't do Valentine's.
No,
Yeah, winter is for lovers. We're going to get home, dig out the log pile from the snow that's already on it from last week, and get plenty of logs in the house so that we can have a nice roaring log fire for this evening.
That's very nice.
Nice.
While it's flaky outside.
Well, it's flaky outside.
Well, at the end of last segment, Mike brought up Chris. No, was it one of these two? Either
Mike or
you
Ed.
or
Ed.
Or Ed brought up Chris Cuomo, and yeah, he was talking with the judge out of Alabama, saying and the judge is going on, and Ed left it sort of like the judge was saying that our rights come from men, and that was not quite right. Although that is, I think, the important part. That was said by Chris Cuomo. Offspring of former Mario Cuomo and brother of current Andrew
Former
Cuomo.
or late?
Late.
Well, he was the former governor.
Yes.
And the late.
And the late.
I don't know, maybe
Late personage.
did a Chelsea Manning thing or something. I don't know.
Yeah. And, the judge is saying, quoting, and I think I put the post up. Maybe I
Well,
did.
if this was Roy Moore, he's saying our rights come from God because he was the
Right.
guy
And that
he was the guy
comes-
that had the Ten Commandments in his courtroom.
Right, and that's what, it's always been quoted that our rights come from God. That's from the Declaration of Independence and has been enshrined ever since by the Founding Fathers. And Chris Cuomo basically said, no, it's not. It comes from men and our collective agreement about what your rights are, which is an extremely scary thought. Because once it devolves from God, which is an absolute value, an absolute right, which shall not be touched, but when you get into the mindset that God no longer, or nature's God, no longer is important in this thing, and progressivism is nothing but relativism, that if men can decide what your rights are, then your rights aren't rights at all. They're just merely whims of the political wind at that particular time. And it's scary to think about that.
And you have mob rule.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what they designed the Constitution to prevent, not only by making the people the sovereigns, but by ensuring that the smaller political units had the strong control of local affairs, whether it be the towns, the counties, the states, and that all the way to the federal government. I nearly said the top, but really it's the bottom, is that the individuals and the states exercise control thereover. And of course, the 17th Amendment undid some of that.
People have such a flimsy grasp of the idea of natural rights. I mean, the minute you say God, all the atheists and the agnostics are like, "Oh, God, run away, run away." But really, if you're talking about natural rights, you are born somewhere in the world. There is no civilization. What are your rights? You have a right to defend your person and your property.
To speak?
And you have the right to speak your mind. And there's other ones, but basically, those are the ones you can grasp. If you were born in the middle of a forest and you and your family are there, and you're scraping together a living in your cave, do you have a right to what you've done? Do you have a right to defend your person, or can somebody else in a different cave come and take it?
Well, if they're Democrats.
If they're Democrats, they can. If a flock of ring-necked Hosmer geese come and they eat all your berries,
and then poop all over your yard.
Like geese,
peck at you,
like geese do,
and then get mad at you because they're pecking at you and you're trying to keep them away. People need to grasp it. It's so simple. It's really that simple.
If Democrats were just marauding geese, they'd all be dead by now.
I was talking about the natural rights, not the marauding geese. That's different.
Well, here's the deal. A right is something that you get, that you have innately, that you can exhibit and exercise without the permission or dependency of anybody else. And the converse is also true. My right to free speech does not mean that you have to listen to me.
You can walk away.
You can walk away. You can even take your free speech and scream back at me. My right to self-defense is not dependent on anybody else. We see the perversion of the word rights so often nowadays because, healthcare is a right, education is a right, say in the gun rights environment, we're saying I have a right to a safe environment.
You have a right to educate yourself. You have a right to care for your own health.
Right, but in all of this,
you don't have a right to make me do it.
But their version of a right means somebody else has to provide it for me. I am entitled to the fruits of your labor. I am entitled to your intellectual prowess or the strength of your back in order for me to exercise my full right. And that's where I get upset because you're right, Steve. The educational system has so perverted our base understanding of what things are. There's no wonder why we're losing our republic.
Well, that and I at a leadership level, it's clear that the statists know what they're doing, and they know that the state has to take over everything in order to do what they want it to do and to keep them in power. At the lower level, I believe that people just think that it's the government tree and that they're entitled to the fruits thereof, and they have no knowledge of how that tree gets nourished. Unless we show it to them that the tree has to be nourished by the blood of revolution from time to time, they don't understand that what they pick off the branches of that tree is sucked out of our pockets by the roots.
Well, it's also the changes in culture. You think about, and this is speaking from a female's perspective, young women that were born after, or in the few years leading up to the Supreme Court decision on Roe versus Wade, grew up in a world that said, well, yeah, abortion's not a big deal. And unless they took the time to educate themselves, or their parents, or their school, or their church, or their peers said, well, no, wait a minute, this is not what we believe, this is not what we think is right. Part of it is, unless your behavior has been corrected, you don't necessarily know. How many people rely on their instincts to do the right thing? I think most people do. Okay, I hope most people do. But unless that behavior's been corrected, how do you know any different?
In the abortion battle has been a long. Things are getting a little better. Overall, you've seen some improvement in perception about the debate on that issue, but it's been a long time, and it flipped so quickly that.
But it's not even abortion. It's anything else that culture deems is okie dokie now. If you don't know any better, if this is what you learn, if this is what your peers believe, if no one has said, you're grounded. Why would you think any differently? How many people are independent students or thinkers?
Well, now we have to go back into history, and a part of history that most people don't understand. And if I say the Frankfurt School here in this room, most of you will understand what that was.
They make hot dogs, right?
No.
No? Okay.
No.
Just checking.
This, coming out of Prussia and Germany, this was the school of thought that was advancing socialism, that was de rigueur
They made
in the
wieners.
1880s. And, when the wars were coming through, they settled here in America to push progressive ideas, and they said, well, they'll never revolt here like they have in other countries, so we will have to change the culture. And that's when they ascended into the ivory tower and other areas to change the popular culture, including Hollywood, to unmoor us from our traditional values.
Right.
And that's what you see is we are in a culture war. We are in a culture of
Yeah,
values.
and well, as I say, they would never revolt here. They knew that the people would not rise up at the government in the traditional sense, because they didn't feel oppressed, and because they knew they had the rights and the rights to defend themselves from government. So they've had to change the culture so that people don't perceive that they have the right to defend themselves from government, and rather that they are subjects of government.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair statement.
And it's very clear when you look at, the eldest's significant other is going to school, elementary ed, special ed, and she was told outright, your job is to monitor parents. We cannot allow kids to have their parents' values. Is the next step. And I have seen this and commented and blogged about it before.
I would love to have that on video.
I have some of that on video because I've been to the school board meetings.
I mean at the ed level.
Oh, at the ed level?
To have a professor teaching a future teacher that is their job, that would be earth-shattering.
If you go, there are a lot of progressive social justice warrior type sites. We all have seen the examples of Common Core and some of the stuff that they're putting up, like the latest one going around. Again, I can't blog it all. I can't even get a gazillionth of it all up. But there's this political cartoon of the Democrat laying the bricks for the road for the poor, and the Republican on the other side taking up the bricks. I mean, that's the portrayal that we see essentially over and over again. The Republicans hate the poor, want to kill off the poor, and the Democrats love the poor.
No, we don't want them to be poor anymore.
Yeah,
right.
well, that's the difference.
And the Democrats love the poor because they want there to be more of them.
But the
Stay
imagery is important because it sends a message, and people connect to that message, and they believe what they see as correct, and it's not.
And you see,
because it's harder to explain to somebody that whole give a man a fish thing. I mean, people are like, yeah, aphorism, whatever it is, I don't care. But until you put it into practice and say, look, ask yourself this question. We just, like as an example, here's another $200 million we're going to get from the federal government to give people health insurance because they got kicked off their other health insurance because of this particular piece of legislation or whatever we did. They became dependent. They need the money, and the people who gave it to you are so deep in debt that at some point they're going to have to cut something. Okay? Now,
and you don't want it to be you, so you're going to vote for them.
When all of that cutting starts, and we know it happens, it has to happen. There's no,
it's happening here where they're taking money away from senior.
Hasn's already doing it.
Senior
it's
care
one
homes.
freaking year, not even 12 months.
Yeah.
And we're already doing it.
And
so
who do we blame?
Yeah.
Jeb Bradley, Jeannie Forrester.
But you can't go to a well that's
Odell.
empty and think you're going to get a drink. That's the problem. Yeah. And people have been convinced that there's always going to be water there. And there isn't. And when there isn't, that's why people are called preppers, because they know that when you put everybody on welfare and the train hits the end of the tracks, somebody's going to be pissed off.
Well, I mean, people getting ready for a snowstorm, all right? Think about it. When I was coming back yesterday from my Valentine lunch, we always look as we get off the exit there and see what's going on in the Market Basket parking lot.
Oh, yeah, you'd think it was Armageddon.
You would absolutely think it's
The
Armageddon.
Rhode Islanders joke about Cumberland Farms.
Yeah,
and
and
the
people,
shelves being emptied. That's the convenience stores.
Yeah, and they're going to Home Depot and looking for generators.
Yeah,
right?
now.
Or shovels.
Shovels.
Or snow
No
melt.
brushes.
Oh,
And if there's not any, they're outraged.
well, you put me in that same group. I had to go buy a new shovel. The youngest broke it.
But different.
Well, there you
I
go. There's
had
a
one.
different thing. But 2 is 1 and 1 is none.
Yeah, so I bought 2 more.
There you go.
Yeah, and
Going back to-
I had one slightly cracked shovel and one good one, and the handle broke on my good one, so now I have one good shovel because I put the pieces back together.
There you go.
I mean,
But it's sad because when you pit people one against the other, and they have to worry about whether their kids are going to get fed, or I don't know. I guess that's the most elemental thing. Whether you've got a roof over your head, or you can, put gas in your car to go to work. When you're so, and we talk about this all the time, when you're so focused on making it through the night to the next day, all of this other stuff doesn't matter. And whoever is going to give some food to your kid so you don't have to kill somebody to get it, you're going to go back to them, and you're not going to aggravate them because you need them for your child. Okay?
And that's how that's how Democrat government would like you to be.
Exactly.
Dependent,
And what
following
is
their
more
Pied Piper.
evil? What is more evil than holding your children hostage to force you to do what they want?
Romney certainly took it in the shorts about his 47% statement. But now we see the Democrats being open about it. They've admitted, we're doing this to get the votes. They've said it. I've read it. And these are not just the backbenchers. These are the high-profile folks saying we need to do this. They want to change society, just like Labour did in Britain, where they wanted a whole new population. Well, how's that working out for them now? Not so well.
Not too well. Well, the other thing they wanted, of course, it was because they were effectively the party of the unions. They wanted communism. They wanted to nationalize every little itty piece of business. I mean, they owned the telephones, the post office, the railroads, the sugar company, the steel company, the
coal mines,
the car company, the coal mines.
Yay, Josh is here.
And sure enough,
Mr. Bear!
Sure enough, most of it stopped working.
Yeah, it did. Margaret Thatcher was right.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break and swap some seats, and we'll be right back because our guests are here. Stay tuned.
Cool.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested, riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is a repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Grok TV.